Cottage laws are something that people like to use as a way to get around their food code in their state or their city or their county. And today we're going to be talking about why you can't depend upon the cottage laws, because the cottage laws are a very narrow scope of foods. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
And I noticed, I might be switching gears ahead of you here, Bill, but I know that when we talked before, and what I see as a really common question that keeps popping up is, and we were kind of hitting on it anyways, is the commercial kitchen or commissary. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a big topic. I don't know if you're ready to switch gears or not, but it just hit me. So I thought about that. I know that's a big question. That's a big misconception sometimes, or just what does that mean? What is a commissary, or what did the inspector mean by the requiring a commercial kitchen? And it kind of goes in line with what we're just talking about. How do a small food trailer, small food truck, with that 1 or 2 people in it, like you're saying, compared to the full brick and mortar where there might be 10 people, or, all the space we need and all sorts of ways to ensure everything's done correctly. We don't have that luxury on our food trucks and our food trailers. So if you look at, maybe if this helps clarify a little bit for folks on what a commissary is. So the commissary is the common term. It also means commercial kitchen. They're interchangeable. If you have to look at what is required first at a brick and mortar, kind of like we said, food trailers, food trucks came later. So it started with the rules for the restaurant, the rules and regulations. They had to somehow say, well, we can't make a food truck look exactly like our restaurant. There's no way, we don't have the space. So once in a while, I'd probably say maybe 5% is an estimated guess. 5 to 10% of our food trucks nationwide do not need a commissary because they are large enough and they kind of have everything they can prove to the inspector and the permitting department that they pretty much are a rolling full restaurant. They have the 3-compartment sink to wash their dishes in. They have an extra sink for mops. They have enough hand washing sinks. They have enough cold storage. They're plugged in at all the times. They're all the different ways. You really got to show that you don't need that you are as a tiny restaurant on wheels. Other than that, the rest of us are falling into, we don't quite have enough space. Where are we dumping our gray water? Where are we taking our trash out at? So if you look at where the inspectors are coming from, where the food code and all of our rules are, is you can never do any of your commercial operations, anything that has to do with the kitchen or the restaurant or the food truck at home. No part of the operation can be performed at home. And if you want to get a letter of the rule, it means taking out the trash. You're not even supposed to take your trash home, right? Or dump your gray water out at your home. But certainly not wash dishes, store our food, do our prep, any of our cooking, and then taking it to the truck or trailer. They do not want that. So that's where they found, all right, so you can do that at an approved, permitted kitchen. And so we call that, the commissary is the easy way to say that. It has, so it could be an existing restaurant that has room where we can use part of their walk-in cooler. And when they're not open, we can come in and use their dishwasher machine or the 3-compartment machine to wash our dishes and all that kind of stuff. Then, a lot of those inspectors are going to want us to show a contract, that we have a contract with that commissary / commercial kitchen. And that, they want to check every few months, if it's when they're inspecting that actual commissary, or if they're just doing a routine walkthrough, they're going to look and make sure that we are actively using it, that we did, because what happens once in a while is people get the contract signed, get their permit, and then never see or hear from them again. We don't want to go down that route, but the full intention is that we are doing as much as we can on the truck, and then whatever there's not room for that falls off will be done at a permitted kitchen. There's another term that I see get thrown around once in a while that might have some misconception, and that is the cottage laws. I've had people come in and say, I said, which commissary are you going to use? Because I get calls a lot of times where people are trying to, I don't just teach the service safe, but when they're trying, what they ask on our page is very common. Right. How do I start? And so I'll consult with them. And that's, I say, you're just a 10-foot long food truck. What commissary are you going to use? Oh, no, I'm going to use the cottage laws. I don't do it out of home. And so some people just think that cottage law, meaning, cottage as in home, means that you're just going to use your home. That rarely works. What the cottage laws are really intended for, where if you're doing fairly low risk type stuff, like if you're making homemade jams and jellies and you want to sell them at the local farmers market or the local shops and retail and stuff like that, or even sell it to some restaurants wholesale. It's not really high risk. We're not making beef jerky. We're not making, fermenting stuff in our kitchen. Then they will come into our home and they're still permitting. That's what I want to be really clear on. They're still permitting your house as a commercial operation. But if it's low risk, they're not going to where cottage laws comes in is we don't have to make it look like a restaurant. They're not going to make us put in floor drains and, put in all stainless steel equipment. And, they let us get a few little loopholes in it that way, but it's still approved. It's still permitted. They still came in and said, okay, you have the space, you have the equipment, you have the measures in place to be able to do this. And so I don't want some folks to think that that they can just, claim cottage laws and be able to prep at home and then take it to the food truck and call it a day. That's still very illegal.
A lot of the states, and just like the general health code, all the states are different on the cottage laws.
Right.
For example, in Florida, there's no inspection. You can just start selling the food whenever you want.
Okay.
But you have to, the only regulation you have to meet is it has to be labeled, very blatantly labeled, that this food item was not prepared in a commercial kitchen.
Okay.
It's not been inspected. And
gotcha.
It really, if you were to read the label the way that it's written, and you have to do it exactly the way that the state wants it, no one would buy the food.
Right.
Because it implies this is not wholesome food.
Right. Okay. So thanks for clarifying that. See, I get caught in that sometimes too, where the states I work with, I'll have it one way, but then there's the out. It goes back to our first point that we started off with is even the experts aren't going to be great. Know what to do in your city, your state, your county. I kind of go the overall rules, but Florida's going to be a little more lax than a lot of states, and say, but then that's a good catch there. Well, you can do it, but you got to let everybody know it's made in your kitchen, exactly. In your basement, and then rightfully so.
There's other states too that you cannot sell, like you had mentioned, selling at wholesale. You can't do it wholesale. Because now you're giving it to someone else to be able to sell. And again, the expectation is that this food has gone through some type of inspection somewhere. Florida won't let you resell. Florida won't even let you leave your food unattended.
Oh, wow.
So you can set up on the side of the road, no problem. But you can't put it in a grocery store somewhere or a hotel lobby, and then let the hotel collect the money.
You have to be there to answer any questions. That's exactly. Yep. That's common. We have to be there to answer those questions. That makes perfect sense. And you got to look at why. Why where that also could come into play for the folks getting into the food trucks. A big thing is when we get our food, it has to come from an approved source. Now that is all 50 states say yes to that. That is a blanket rule for sure. We can't have our chickens in our backyard laying the eggs, and we can't go fishing this weekend and catch our own fish and bring them in. I mean, there's no way around that. We know that, but the term they like to use that's common is approved source, meaning it went. And so that's where, we could use cottage law in Florida and make our own sauces, barbecue sauce, but then if an inspector comes in and it has that label on it that says, this was, then they can make us throw it out or not. It's not an approved source is what it all comes down to. So let's just be real diligent on that. We want that USDA graded meat. If we're getting it from the store, getting it from any of our food purveyors, then we can be under the safe assumption it is an approved source, of course. But I've had restaurants, even the food trucks, where people have gone foraging for mushrooms and come by, or hey, you want to buy, this and that. And you want to, but we can't. We know that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because you lose the chain of custody of the food.
That's it. Yep. You're responsible. As soon as it enters your food truck, it is your liability. If you receive it too warm and somebody gets sick, it's your fault. I mean, it comes back to you. As the operators. As soon as we take control of it, is now our responsibility. I always say the inspector's rule is whichever ones they use. I always say they kind of start from the time we receive our food until it ends up in the dumpster. Because if you've ever been through an inspection, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for your labels on your food, everything in between, and then they like to look at that dumpster to make sure that there's we close the doors and that it's nice and clean and no pests are hanging out in it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a good way of looking at an inspection. It is literally from, the point that the food enters the establishment until it hits the trash.
Till the trash can, yep, and everything in between.
Tomorrow, Joe and I will be talking about some of the things that we've seen over the years where a restaurant or a food truck has gotten in a little bit of trouble, and then what they do to get around having gotten into trouble and try to save themselves a penny. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.